Hello, welcome to the first SPT Speaker Series. And today I have the joy to introduce you Laura Pastorini. But we'll get to that in a minute. I would like to just go around and see, just say your name so we hear your voices and where you're in the moment. Where are you in the world? So just unmute yourself and say your name and where are you sitting in this moment. And we'll do that quickly, and then we'll introduce ourselves, Laura and myself, in a moment. Okay. Agatha.
Paris.
Paris, thank you.
Hi, Patricia, São Paulo, Brazil.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, this is Jose Luis from Bolivia.
Nice, thank you.
This is Vicente from Mallorca, Spain.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, thank you. Who else?
I'm Annie from Portland, Oregon.
Annie from Portland, Oregon.
Shannon from Wisconsin.
Shannon, Wisconsin.
And Doris from Vienna.
Doris from Vienna.
Hola, soy Margarita de Colombia.
Margarita de Colombia, thank you. Welcome. Bienvenida. ¿Quién más? Who else?
Hi, I'm Michelle.
Oh. Michelle?
Michelle from Brazil,
from
Rio
Brazil.
de Janeiro.
Thank you. Welcome.
Silvana from Bolivia, South America.
Silvana from Bolivia, great.
Hi, I'm Anna from Portugal.
Anna from Portugal, thank you. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Richard from Berlin, Germany.
Richard from Berlin.
I'm Christine from Iowa in the United States.
Christine from Iowa. Great.
I'm Raylan from Delaware.
Raylan from Delaware. Welcome. I think there's a couple of more.
Hi, I'm Denise. I'm from the east coast of Canada and the province of New Brunswick.
Okay, Denise, welcome from Canada.
Hello, I'm Uri from Italy.
Uri from Italy. Great. Okay, I think that's everybody. Jessica, I think. Jessica is driving somewhere.
Yeah. Sorry, I was muted. I'm Jessica. I'm from Massachusetts in the U.S.
Okay, wonderful. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so I am so excited to be here with all of you and launching this series. As I was saying in the Eventbrite, probably everybody read it, this came out of an idea of just getting people together, people that are wanting to learn more about SPT and people that have been using it, and we'll just engage in conversation. So the format will be that we'll have the presenter telling us a little bit about what their experiences, and then we'll have time to ask questions. So what I will suggest for now is that if you, as Laura is speaking, if you have some questions, you can put it in the chat and I'll pay attention to that. So Laura, you just pay attention to your presentation. And then I will see if I can put those questions in, present it to Laura at some point, and we'll try to do as much as we can in this 1 hour. Okay, so here is Laura Pastorini. She is from Uruguay. She is one of the teachers of the SPT. She was in the first cohort. We were together in 2014. And at the end, we were made teachers. So since then, she has been using this really in an amazing way with so many really great results in Latin America. And so I'm really happy that she said yes to my invitation. And so without further ado, I would like to get you to start. Would you like to share the screen yourself, or?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay.
So let me see. Here. So I'm Laura. I am in Uruguay now, and very quickly, I work in my daily life as a consultant and and I work with all kinds of organizations, like from the private sector, business, big corporations, with government, with different NGOs in Uruguay, and I also started to work around South America with these methodologies. I'm a constellator also, so I was used before getting into knowing SPT and Theory U. I was used to introducing this kind of more different or alternative or embodied methodologies in this kind of context. So the idea today, it was very hard to know what to present here, because Mary suggested, why don't you share one of these experiences? And I said, well, perhaps I should share more like a global idea of what came out of these experiences, and give examples along the way. And so the idea I have is to just tell you what my reflections around how to apply SPT in organizations are, and at the end I can answer questions you have, and make a little bit of an interactive generative dialogue. I will go to Zoom to share screen. Now I have it, and now, perfect. So I will share. We can share afterwards this presentation, so you don't have to take notes of everything or try to remember. It's just inputs to the conversation, and the idea is. We depart from the idea that the success of an intervention depends on the interior condition of the intervener. And so many times when we start with this issue is how the bigger problem with, the questions I get more and more asked is, how can you even introduce this kind of methodologies in organizations? Because organizations don't want to use this kind of embodied methodologies, or I hear a lot, this organization is not ready for this kind of intervention, and sometimes the idea is I have something, I'm a little bit more evolved as person or as facilitator as these people from business or these people from the government. And I think to be really coherent with this sentence, we are the ones who have to make the movement. Every person is ready for everything. Every organization is ready for any kind of proposal. So we have to let go our judgments and around organization. That's the first step. So for me, that's the very beginning of it. No? And so more people from organizations, they call us not because they want to know about SPT, they call us because they have a problem they want to solve, they have a challenge they want to face, they have a conflict they want to deal with, or they want just to understand more about themselves. So what we do or how we do is not so important, so we don't have to explain every tool we will use. It's just the inner condition from where we operate, how we stand in front of the organization we're going to work with. And so I think in this attitude that helps a lot to work in organizations is first our curiosity. Curiosity means this movement of going into the other's world, of letting go my convictions, letting go my knowledge, letting go everything I know for certain, letting go my little superiority for being a very spiritual person, and just diving into the reality of the other, I like the most beautiful experience, and for me transformation means being transformed in your convictions, in your ideas, being another person. So it's like I go with this client and I will be, it's not only transforming the client systems, but also transforming myself. So I go side by side in transformation with this person, with this organization. And to that, I have to really be able to listen, to know, to put SPT in service of the case, of the client, of the beneficiary, instead of putting the reality in service of SPT. Not trying to find the perfect place for SPT, but just listening if it is the case that I can apply SPT with this organization, and I can apply, and it will be useful for the other, no? Compassion is like also this idea that even if I don't completely agree with the opinions and the way, the cosmovision of the other person, itself, the client of the organization, trusting in the basic goodness they have. Oh, these are the bad guys. Maria Stone, for example, a colleague of us, is working with ESO, the petrol company. And so what can we do? How can I put SPT in service of a profound transformation that makes the world better in that organization? I have to trust the basic goodness in the other. No? It's like respect, welcome, and honor the other's system, the reality of the other person without judgment, and trying also to put myself, to be compassionate with myself, with my limits. Perhaps I want to use all practices of SPT and I don't have the slightest chance to do that. Well, it's not that I'm a bad practitioner or I'm a bad facilitator. It's not the system is not ready. It's just being honest with what we preach. It's like going moment by moment by moment in welcoming whatever comes, and being very compassionate also with my limits and the limits of the other, of the organization. And the last one is courage. And courage means here for me, I learned this also from the constellation world. It's like I chose this photograph because when you are, this is like the classical photograph of overcoming or going over a threshold or a challenge. It's like the very easy way of jumping. But these processes we are in, SPT Theory U, are processes that invite us not to jump over the emptiness, but the empty space, but to dive into what is beneath, what underlies there. So you need a lot of courage to do that. And perhaps things will happen when you touch the problems in a system, the knots in a system. You probably touch the wounds, personal and collective wounds, trauma, whatever, and you have to be open to deal with that, being confident with that, and also without attachment. I mean, everything belongs to the client. It's the client or the organization or the person or whoever is there, the beneficiary of a social project. They are capable of dealing with the consequences that this process brings. And so must we be. And the more trustful we are, the more the counterpart can take risks. So if we provide a solid ground, a safe environment, the other can take the risk. If I doubt, if I don't feel safe, the other one has to bring safety into the relationship of facilitator and client, and so we won't have a good process. And so this is kind of the inner condition. I thought if we ended the presentation here could be good, but I would just go a little bit further and just give you some tips from this inner condition, which I think is the most important, hearing the process, being able to be flexible, going moment by moment by moment, how we can use our formats on one side to cultivate the inner condition we operate from and our clients operate from, and from the other side to explore the system's current reality and its possibility. That it's kind of the two pillars of SPT. The one on the one side, more the practices that are embodied practice that connect body with mind, that cultivate our perception, mindfulness, awareness. On the other side, the other practices like, for example, 4D mapping or STAC, or these practices that explore real situations and their possibilities. So when you go to a client, you see, well, where can I go? What can I do? Can I do both? Is this more to cultivate the inner condition? Is it more to explore the system current reality? How can be SPT useful for this case? No? And so I use the theory U frame, which is very important to have the idea of process. You're not going to do only acupuncture, you're going to do acupuncture in the system in a process. So it's important what happens before, what happens after. And even if you're called to do just one little thing in a consultancy process, for example, I started like this when I started with this kind of tools. I went to, for example, another consultant called me and said, hey, I want to do a 4D map in this part of the process because we are, or a STAC because we are stuck, and just you go there. But it's very important to have to know where in the process are you going to intervene, or if you're going to do a consultancy process, then design a U process. I mean, I use the U because for me it works perfectly, but you could use another process frame. I think in SPT, because the SPT is conceived as a U, they work very well together, but you don't have to stick to the U process. You can use, for example, the dragon dreaming process or whatever process you want to use. And so in this process, taking as a guiding thread this process, I think co-initiating is very important when you do this kind of interventions, to let go your intention and let come the client's beneficiary. So you don't know if you're going to be useful for them. For example, I had in Chile a consultancy company. They are all engineers, consultants, and they called me and said, I want to, they were completely in love with SPT, the owner of the company. And he said, oh, we have to do an SPT basic in company. And so, great, you have to come. And so we arranged everything to go and do the SPT basic in company. And when we started the conversations, I realized that they were in a big transformational process, a big restructuring process, that the management team and the owner himself, they were very unclear about the future of the company. So I just said to him, I cannot do a basic SPT course in your company. That would be, in a very good scenario, that would be just a light experience nobody will remember. And in a very bad scenario, the bomb will explode because it would become a mess. So I prefer not to do this. I really felt it wasn't the moment to do anything like that, to go to the body, to explore the underlying dynamics in that situation. And the result of that was that we began a coaching process with the owner, with the management team, and with the rest of the organizations. And we ended doing a basic course of SPT in the company, but after we did many steps before, and we gave a sense to it. And it wasn't about doing the SPT basic course in company. It was about using this beautiful experience and these marvelous tools, embodied tools, to make sense of the process. And so now we are working, I'm going back to Chile for the second time to work with them in February. And it's very important not to push things if they don't want to go, no? And for example, I introduce very simple embodied starters. Here is an example, but I think this is an example of just setting in the space some very simple things where people can inform with the body. For example, if this is the pole of, I'm very experienced in an embodiment, or I don't know anything about embodiment. You put two chairs in the space and the people choose their place with their body. For example, I feel very near to, I'm a very embodied person, or no, I'm not a very embodied person, so I go to the chair that is, I'm not an embodied person. Or like, for example, today, Mary introduced beautifully the embodiment in a very simple way. She said, first, just connect with your body, sit still. Everybody knows stillness. Everybody is familiar today with what mindfulness means and connecting with the body. And then she said, now feel if you want to do some movement. We already know that when we sit a long time, we want to move. And afterwards she said, well, let's alternate movement and stillness. And now we are into 20-minute dance without realizing it. So these kind of things are very useful to go slowly into the process, no? To co-sense, we have this, I mean, we in the instructions we have for the different formats, for the different practices, you will see in what part of the process they are expected to be applied of the U process. I use them in very different ways also. Sometimes I do a case clinic at the end of the process. Sometimes I do a village also in the right side of the U to explore leadership. You can use the different tools in different moments, no? And so what I think about the attitude, it's very important to adapt to the different situations and to democratize the practice, to be very sensible. If you have someone that's not used to use the body, will feel very bad in the group. If you have someone who is very experienced, you have a dancer in the group, in the organization, in an office, that would not be democratic. So you have to be very aware. For example, once I did a duet with Ma, with someone who didn't want to do the duet with Ma, who didn't want to dance with another person because they felt really ashamed. And so they just, we said, well, let's just use a sheet of paper, and one of the participants of the duet writes something down in the sheet of paper, and then slowly hands the sheet of paper to the other one, and the other one writes something on the sheet of paper, and they make Ma in between. So instead of dancing with the body, they just did this sheet of paper dance, and they felt very comfortable, and we could go on, and nobody felt bad in the group. So it's very important to adapt to the situations you have, no? And so you can use, for example, Village is a very useful tool to use for embodiment, for connecting body and mind and exploring the social body and everything that we know, but can also be used as a diagnosis in this left side of the U to know how the group is feeling, how the team is working, to explore different possibilities of leadership. In Chile, for example, we did a village to explore different kinds of leadership that could recognize in the organization and the ideal leadership they wanted to achieve. And so departing from a village, we could do a whole work on leadership that it was very significant for them. And the good thing about this kind of diagnosis is that it's not personalized. It's not that, oh, this leader of this part of the organization is a very bad leader or this one is a very good leader. No, you explore in an abstract way the different kind of leaderships that you can identify in the organization and then work with them. So these are, I have many examples here in the presentation, but I don't want to go too long. I just want to say, for example, in this co-sensing, you can combine very well 4D mapping and stack. For example, you can use 4D mapping to have a global, like to see the woods and the landscape where the woods are, like the big systems involved in an organization, have the big picture, right? like the zoom out. And then you find in the 4D mapping something that is stuck, and then you can go in little groups and explore this stack that can have no name, can have no personalized identification. That's just the feeling of the stack, this kind of stack, and you work it out in little groups, and then you can have a lot of information about that. Or you can do it in another way. For example, you can work stack with little groups and then, or individual stack, and then see what is something that appears in every stack, or what is something which stack is very strong, comes out to be very strong in the organization. And then we work with a 4D mapping to explore this stack in a bigger scenario, including the different parts of the system and the bigger systems involved. I just brought this idea of Varela here, but I wanted to point out that if you want to work with communication and the idea of not getting seduced by contents in communication, 20-minute dance, duet with Ma, are very strong tools to work on that. Because the minute you get seduced by something, you let it go and see what emerges. The minute you get seduced by saying something you want to add to the conversation of the other, you let it go, you do a Ma, and make your body a resonance box and see what comes. It's like, that's the kind of experience that's very useful for generative interaction and communication. And also the stack that exactly does that. No, when you go deep in the stack and let go and let come. And stack is a very powerful tool to explore conflict and to know how, for example, if you see how people deal with the exercise of stack in an organization, it gives a lot of information of how they deal with conflict. They cannot do the stack. They don't understand the direction right. It's not your fault. It's not their fault. It's just information about the system. These kind of things are important to take into account. Presence, we know what presence is. I don't know how much time I do have, Mary.
Yes, I think if it's right now is almost 40, so we'll have it 20 more minutes. I think if you go a little bit more and you finish, we can have 15 minutes for conversation.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. For the moment of presence, I do something that's very, I mean, presence means this quality of presence, but it also means for me, and it's very useful in organizations, to have this multidimensional perception. I mean, to have track of yourself and not losing track of the other, and not losing track of the team or work or group you're working with, and not losing track of the big social body of the bigger system and the environment. So sometimes to work like for example, to start with 20-minute dance, then go to duets, then go to village of 5, then go to village, helps a lot the people to go slowly into this day-to-day experience, having a lot of information about how they feel when they are in intimacy with someone else, how they feel when they are in a team, how they feel when they work alone, how they feel when they are in a big village. And it helps a lot for them to have their own information, and also to train this kind of perception and presence. And for me, the exercise for presence that's the best is field dance. It's the quality of attention, the quality of compassion, the quality of non-judgment that you can achieve with field dance in this kind of processes is incredible. And I will use a lot field dance to work with resources, because the person who stands in front of everybody can be seen from the rest of the team, of the group, of the organization. And so it's a beautiful moment to harvest resources from everyone. I usually use field dance, so they go one by one in front of the group, and then the group gives feedback recognizing a resource in that person. For example, Mary goes in front of the group and does her gesture, and I say, for example, courage, and the other one says intelligence, and the other one says kindness. And so you can harvest, each one can harvest a lot of resources. And when you are working in the U process, most of the time, the conflicts and the struggle and the hard part comes when you work down, when you're arriving down in the U, when you work with STAC, when you work with 4D mapping, and it's like you touch the conflict, the wound of the system, of the people. And so it's a beautiful time to harvest resources. So these are the resources you have to deal with the conflict. This is the resources you have to face problems. And in terms of process, field dance provides this opportunity, incredible opportunity to work with resources, to recognize and make visible the resources of each of one. And then sometimes I do, with all the harvesting of these words, I do a word cloud, for example, and so they all can see the resources of the organization. And well, for the going up into the U, we don't have many practices, but it's obvious that we use seed dance for that. As I told you, village to have more clear lines of action towards leadership, for example. And case clinics is very useful for me if you work in an organization, that you can, for example, you make these little coaching circles. One of the of the 5 of the coaching of each coaching circle works. And so you leave them a tool and the opportunity to work further. When you're gone in the organization, they can keep meeting this little circle and working with the others that didn't work with you. So, and lastly, in the last minute, I want to tell you that it's very important to harvest during the process. Organizations want recommendations, they want reports, they want results, and you don't have to provide them with this. It's like harvesting what the people involved in the organization found out. So it's very important that they recommend themselves what to do, that they find out the lines of action. So harvesting is very important. And here is some an order we use. I mean, this has been worked with Arawana also of how to harvest. You can be very creative in harvesting. And this order of harvesting is very important for me, like very useful. So I think that's it.
Thank you so much. So Laura, if you stop the sharing, we'll go back. I think it's up in your computer. Okay. Oh, wonderful. Wow, thank you. So I have a couple of questions in the chat, and I'll just go ahead and ask those first. And then if somebody else has a question, you can raise your hand or put it in the chat. So, so the first question, let me see. This is a really good question. Laura, how would you describe the nature, the quality of your state when you create a container of trust and safety? How do you know when the level of safety is present with your clients?
Wow, what a question. I think you will never know. You have to trust that you arrive to that state of trust. So I would say unconditional trust with the other is the first. That brings unconditional trust with yourself, with what you are doing. Because it's not about you, it's about you have some beautiful tools that some beautiful people developed, and you are just a channel, you are just a hole, and through that hole, all these beautiful tools can be available for those people who are in front of you. So it's not about you, and it's about them, and it's about others, I would say. It's like once I was doing work, it was with constellations in that time. It wasn't with SPT, but it was with constellations, which is very in the Chamber of Commerce of Uruguay. People that are very, Chamber of Commerce. And when I arrived to the place, they didn't put the chairs in a round. They put the chairs like in an auditorium, so it was impossible to work with them. And so when I was there with my colleague, and we said, "Oh my God, what are we going to do now? It's a mess. We are not going to be able to work." And I said, it was very difficult to bring constellations to them, very difficult. And we had this other difficulty and said, well, let's trust they will do, and they will not only do constellations, they will move all the chairs and make the room for it. And so, no, they won't do it. Yes, they will. And so we did the presentation with auditorium, and I said, well, now we stand up and each one of you move the chair it's like, and make space and room for you to work. And it's like trusting the other, I would say. But you never know what will happen, trusting the process and our teacher.
Thank you. So one more question I see here in the chat. how can we manage the conflicts that we find with the technique of stuck?
Well, I will tell you an experience I had. Very recently, we were working with a midwives association. The midwives association has the big challenge, they were always outside the system and fighting the health system in Uruguay, like the alternative way of giving birth at home without doctors, you know. And so they had the big challenge to deal with the health system, because they were getting very big and they had to be part of the system. For example, they had to include gynecologists in their courses. They had to work in some way with the health system, and the health system wanted to include them. And we found out that there was this internal conflict, that the conflict was no longer outside. There was like an internal conflict of, are we going to be the opposition, or are we going to be resilient and be part and integrate the health system with us? And it was a very hard conflict they had inside, and we were working, going down to the EU, and we did stuck with them. And it was very funny because we did little groups to find out first, what is my stuck in the organization, share it in the little group, and then work with the stuck in these little groups to help each one with the stuck in the organization, my own stuck in the organization. And it was so hard because they didn't understand, this is what I told you today, they didn't understand the instruction, or their feedback was, oh, she didn't understand, I wanted more pressure here, oh, I didn't want to press you because I didn't know how you would feel, you know, this kind of conversation, weird conversation. And in the middle of the stack, they got a message in WhatsApp of one of the midwives that had the strongest position in the organization, that she was dismissing. She was abandoning the place she had in the organization. So in the middle of the stack, we were doing this hard position against the system, and so just solved. And that was the start of the whole process they did. The result they got in the whole process started that day. And I think that you can work it in many ways, but the particularly result of this kind of tools is that they have an immediate effect. It's not only things that you realize and you can report, but transformation happens. And well, they were very courageous to take that moment to deal with that. We just said, beautiful, this is harmful, this is painful, this hurts, but this is part of the process and many things will happen here. And so you can work with stack more to the methodology. You can work with individual stack and then transform, for example, my stack in the organization. And then when we jump into group stack, we can work with for example, this personal stack in the organization. What is the meaning of this personal stack in the organization? So we give a little different content to the group stack, and then you share with the whole group in a plenary. I harvest everything. So when they do group stack, they harvest. Well, when they do individual stack, they harvest. When they do group stack, they harvest, and then they share. So the most information you got, the most useful it is for them afterward.
And it's so interesting what you just said also, that combines with your answer before about trust. Because you just trust the whole process. Even when they were saying, oh, she didn't press me hard enough, or I didn't want to press you that hard. So that already is part of the stack. those words, and they're expressing something. So if you just go with the moment to moment of everything that is happening, trusting that it is leading you and them somewhere, you can find information everywhere in every moment. So let me see if there's some more questions here. So Jose Luis is saying, thank you, Laura, for that explanation. It's really helping a lot. Shannon, can you share a bit about your harvesting process?
Well, I found very beautiful harvesting tools in Art of Hosting. So you can harvest in many, many ways. You can, for example, you can harvest with drawings. You can harvest, for example, when you harvest in groups, it's very useful to put a piece of paper on the floor or on the table, but usually we have floor on a table. So put a piece of paper and just draw or write while you are having this conversation. It depends on the requirements of the organization. Sometimes you need for example, we need very clear lines of action. So after the whole process, we do harvest in groups of what kind of actions of the last part of the harvesting. What are the insights I had and what actions emerge from this experience, and then you have to harvest them very concretely. But drawing and for example, we harvest stuck with little pipeliners or with Play-Doh or whatever. So harvesting means that you can put outside and make shareable your experience. And it's very important for what we do, because we work with experience, with inner experience, with collective experience. So how to translate that experience into information. And something you do with your hands, something you can write, you can draw. That's very useful. Carol Sanner is very good with, perhaps we can have one.
She's here.
Carol. Carol Sanner, perhaps we can have a conversation about harvesting, because you do such a beautiful work with harvesting. So
yes, you need to get in the calendar, Carol.
All right. Well, I must say that I was really inspired by Ricardo and Beth Mont in our advanced training, because we used all kinds of images, Play-Doh, all kinds of practical things to translate the inner experience into something visible. So moving from one channel, a felt channel, to something that can be formed with the hands and something that you can see. So,
wonderful.
I love that stuff. So I'm glad to share any more if anyone's interested. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we will have you here. So you need to look at your calendar, first Tuesday of the month, maybe June. We'll see. Okay, so anything else? We have a couple more minutes, and I would like to make a few announcements before we close. Okay, so Laura, this has been unbelievably fantastic. Like, I really see lots of heads. Yes, clapping. You can unmute yourself to clap.
Marvelous.
Thank you. Really wonderful. And thank you for so much generosity in sharing everything, your knowledge and your examples. I think it's been very helpful for everybody. So I just wanted to let you know, in the chat, I put the link for Arwana Hayashi's website, where you can see the programs, the SPT basic programs that are available. Some of them in Spanish, which I don't know. Yeah, some people might actually want to know that from this group, and then some others that are being taught in English. So if you go to that link, you can see all the SPT programs basics that are available, and then you can poke in Arwana's website, because that's the link for her website. And the other link that I posted after that is the link for an Eventbrite for the third Tuesday of the month, where I host a practice session. And some people that are here come every time I have a practice session. During the ULab, we had those every week. So that was really helpful. And so if you go to the Eventbrite, it's the same process as this one. It's free. You just register, and you get the link also there. I noticed that some people had a little trouble getting in the link today, but finally they made it. So I'm really happy it worked. And I am kind of in the makings of offering something for the second Tuesday. So this is the first Tuesday of the month. We will have a speaker. The second Tuesday of the month, I'm cooking something for the interior condition of the intervener. So just kind of work with ourselves for just 1 hour in different ways, and maybe even invite people to talk about how they work with themselves. And then the third Tuesday is about the practice session. Okay, so once I have figured out the second Tuesday, I will send you, which is next Tuesday. So I will send the Eventbrite for that. In my page, Mary Miguel's Facebook page, so you can find me there. Or also I will put it in the SPT Global. So you also welcome to just like that page, and I post a lot of things there as well. So I think we are, yay, it's the time. Let me see. I see in the chats if there's something else. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, can the slides be shared with us? Yes, they will be shared with you. I will figure out how to do that. I'll probably post them together with the recording of the session. And some people out there were asking if they could share it with other people, like with their groups and stuff. Is that okay with you?
Yes, the only thing is that this is for people who are more advanced, that at least have an idea of SPT, because all the uses of the different practices are beyond what we know. So it's not that Village is used as a diagnosis. Village can be used because we all know that Village is used for this and that, what says on the instruction. So this is extra instructions. So we only to make that, if you share it with others, you know that, but perhaps others won't. So if you share it with others, to make clear or to put the instructions with this.
Okay, and please, if you do share, just name her creator, Laura Pastorini, and give credit. So that will be fantastic. So I would like to take a moment. I always like to close my sessions like this. Take a moment from and remember the you that came to this call an hour ago. You can close your eyes if you like for that, or just have a sense that you that came to this call, maybe from just waking up or from work or from something else, and how you were when you came in and how you are right now and how you feel right now. So there's something that happened in that 60 minutes that we were together. And if you could encapsulate that experience in one word, what word will that be? And when you have it, please share it, and that's how we will close the session. I'll share. My word is fulfilled, but fulfilled from the outside. There's a sense of having received, feeling, thank you. Okay, so you can actually, I would love it if you unmute yourself and share your word. I see some people are put it in the chat.
I would say thankful, and thankful with all of you, and thankful with you, Mary, for giving us this chance and hosting and holding the space. And I am really available for questions or whatever you want. You can write to me and we can share.
So I read was yes.
I would say motivated and inspired.
Motivated and inspired. Thank you.
I would say inspired also.
Inspired.
Stimulated.
Stimulated.
Grateful and productive.
Productive.
And grateful.
And grateful. Thank you, Jose Luis.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Laura. I feel a very powerful connection.
Thank you. I hear deeper understanding, enthusiastic to begin this journey with SPT tools, trust, joy, fun. Also, that's great. Yeah, Raylan.
Mine is connection, and the image that I got and movement was connection. So
thank you. That's a great gesture.
Mine is enormous wealth and big thank you.
Enormous wealth. Thank you. Okay, maybe a couple more, Rowena.
Mine is further growth.
Further growth. Yes. Thank you.
Mine is, I don't know how to say it in English, but it's gathered, like gathering my thoughts, like gathered.
Gathered.
Together.
Thank you. Well, so is there anybody else? So give one more second. Okay. I really want to take a moment to feel this moment and how much it's been generated, and thank you for your presence, because if you were not here, Laura and I will be just talking to each other, and that would be fantastic, but this was actually even better. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. We have Vasco Gaspar from Portugal, and he has lots of examples also to share, and I will post all the other people that are coming in the future. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Adios.
Adios.